my colleagues and I just stepped back and said, this was the hand of God in a way that we didn't pray for, we didn't expect, we weren't assuming, but he just intervened.
He's right on time. It's Colin Bloom, CEO of Barnabas International. Good afternoon, Colin.
Good afternoon.
Hey, so it's so good to have you on the studio again. Since I last saw you, I've got this little segment on the show called Names and Nature of God. And God's multifaceted, isn't he? There's many parts to who he is, his character. But I understand today that you would like to talk a little bit into God being an interventionist in your work with Barnabas International, which is, of course, supporting the persecuted Christians and churches around the world. You see some amazing things. You said you used an interesting word just before. You actually said supernatural. Yeah. Tell us about some of those things, Colin.
Well, you're right. Barnabas Aid, we support suffering, persecuted and displaced Christians in more than 70 countries around the world. And that could be anything from Christians who are enslaved in brick kilns in Pakistan, and there's over 1 million Christians who are in brick kilns in Pakistan, or Christians in northern Nigeria who are being attacked and murdered or displaced by Islamist extremists like Boko Haram or others. And so we're working very, very hard in those countries. And there's an old I think it was Donald Rumsfeld who said, there are known knowns, there are unknown unknowns, and there are known unknowns and unknown knowns, or something like this. But we don't know everything. We can pray intelligently for things, and the things that we can research and the things that we can do. We can study and we can try our best to do what we can for our suffering brothers and sisters around the world, and we do that. But there's an awful lot that we don't know. And one of the things that I've found recently is that God has shown up, not necessarily in spite of us, but alongside us, saying, okay, I know you didn't know this, but I'm going to help you, and I'm going to intervene, because it's
a relief.
We serve an interventionist God, and I can tell you that both from running the ministry, but also seeing his hand at work in so many different ways, is that I am constantly amazed at his ability to surprise and bless his people in ways that we weren't even thinking about. I'll give you an example. We had a situation in my office where something had happened. I had no idea that it had happened. No one in the building knew that it had happened. It was a technical issue. Someone was trying to hack into a bank account. It was something like that. And a series of about half a dozen events took place, which were completely, in and of themselves, would have been unlikely. But to have them sequenced in such a way so that it stopped that potential fraud from happening and sort of alerted us to what was going on. My colleagues and I just stepped back and said, this was the hand of God in a way that we didn't pray for, we didn't expect, we weren't assuming, but he just intervened. So when I say we serve an interventionist God, he's sort of almost saying, all right, guys, I've got this.
Yeah.
Step back.
Here.
Let me do my thing, yeah. And it's so encouraging. My faith, even in all of the struggle of dealing with, persecuted Christians who are dying, people who are being really treated very badly around the world, in all of it, I can say on a personal level, my faith is being strengthened because I see God's hand at work. And in a way that, I don't despair. Actually, I feel much more encouraged as a result of it.
Yeah, because I actually wondered about that, just in terms of what your focus is. And, just even with Iran at the moment, what's going on there.
Well, Iran is a really good one. So in Iran, it's the fastest growing church in the world. So despite the absolutely horrendous attacks on the Iranian people by the regime, thousands of people killed, many, many more injured, and yet the church is growing, and Christians are being strengthened as a result. And we've got testimonies coming into we have a desk for that region, and the information that we're getting back, the research that is coming back to our editorial and our research desk, is that God is just showing up in the most incredible way, supernaturally. Like
I've seen that
literally,
on social media,
yeah.
people saying, and it was just a couple of days ago, they were saying people in Iran are seeing Jesus.
Yes, yeah.
And
yeah.
you're hearing that as
and
well.
we're hearing that as well. In fact, we've been hearing it for a long time. That there's a story that we heard last year, and I'll change the name and I'll change the place. But there's a little girl, we'll call her Satara, which means star in that language. And let's say she's in a little village called Shiraz, and in that home, the mum and the dad, she's 6. There's a little girl, Satara. She's 6 years old. She was born blind and she couldn't walk. She was disabled. Her legs wouldn't work. And her mum and dad got saved, I think, a few years ago in a house church, underground house church. And they were praying that their daughter would be made better, not completely healed, just better, just a better quality of life. I think that's what they were praying. Well, one night last summer, they were in bed and they heard some noise coming from the kitchen, and they went to the kitchen thinking that they'd been burgled. And Satara was running around saying, I can see, Jesus visited me. He told me to play. And they couldn't believe it. And they asked her what had happened. And the little girl said Jesus came into her room, woke her up and said, you can see, now you can play, go and play. And this little girl went, and they couldn't control her. They tried to sort of say, look, just keep it to yourself, because if word had got out that they had become Christians and that Jesus had done this, then they were going to be persecuted. They were potentially going to be put in jail. But instead of that happening, the little girl told everyone, and hundreds of people in that little town of Shiraz got saved as a result of the testimony of this little 6-year-old girl. So that message came through to us last summer. And you know what? People can choose to believe it or disbelieve it. I don't mind. I mean, our research was pretty robust. And it's things like that. When I say we serve an interventionist God, yes, it's important. We need to pray. We need to pray intelligently. And Barnabas Aid produces a lot of material so that we can pray intelligently for the suffering church. But also just thank God that he intervenes and shows up and does such incredible things, even when we don't even know he's doing it. But he's got his own agenda, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's exciting to be partnering with him in a work he's already doing, right?
Yeah.
Through Barnabas Aid. Colin, we could go on, but I know you've got to go and do some filming on Shine TV now. So I will let you go. But if you're listening and you're like, yeah, actually, I would like to know some prayers of how to pray. I would like to know more about this great organisation. Check them out, barnabasaid.org.nz. That's barnabasaid.org.nz. Colin Bloom, lovely to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.